Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Think and Grow Show. This time we have with us Andy Weins, a rising star. Dr. Z, what's he got going on? He's got a lot of stuff, right?
He's got a lot of stuff going on. You can tell us about your Green Up Solutions company. Can you talk about that? It says that you started that with your brother Isaac. So you can start out with that.
Yeah. Let's jump right in. So 2009, essentially, started recycling. I got laid off in 2008, like a lot of people. I was a combat vet that was unemployed and didn't know where to start, and so I started by driving up and down the streets of the northwest side of Milwaukee and picking up scrap and appliances and things on the side of the road and learning to make a buck. I had a background in it growing up as a kid, watching my father recycle and learning how to take things apart and knowing the difference between different types of metal. Started there, transitioned to a company called the Clutter Busters, which was a business card and a good idea that I did for years. And I had a van and a trailer and eventually a brother that jumped into the business with me, and something we did on nights and weekends. And then 2016, I'd come off a deployment and I said, I never want a job again. And so we developed and built Green Up Solutions. We wrote it on a napkin in the fall of 2014 before I left for my deployment. And February of 16, we got an LLC. It's been 7 years now of running hard and learning about and developing solutions within the waste industry. So all day, every day, that's what I focus on, and that's where my career has taken me. And I'm excited to share my knowledge of sustainability with the world.
Awesome. So was this pretty much your first business idea, or did you guys try different things, but this is the one that kind of took off?
No, this was it. I going back to 2009, it's the idea of recycling and starting with the end state, or beginning with the end state in mind. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is understanding that there's value in all things that we drive by. And so the business was simple. Let's do jobs and get material and product that we can keep out of the landfill and maximize the value. And it's gone in a lot of different directions. That start has never changed. That's always been the focus behind it. We're in a 30,000 square foot facility now in Butler, Wisconsin, still with that as our top priority.
Wow. With that said, I wanted to touch more, if you want to expand on it briefly, but I just wanted, I talked about how much stuff you've got going on. You've got the Young Guns movement, you've got the Green Up, you got the Camel Crew, and there's a couple that I can't think of more than likely right now. But expand on those. The Rage Room, right? Room. Yeah, I forgot about the Rage Room.
So speaking on, Green Up Solutions, the parent company, that's where I said, hey, let's go out and develop environmental consulting and understand how we can keep material out of the landfill. And that evolved into different junk removal companies. And I was part of a franchise organization for years. I got out of that. And now Camel Crew really is the flagship brand. And so Camel Crew Junk Removal is the company that I focus most of my attention on. And what we're doing there is commercial and residential cleanouts of homes and businesses. And what it allows us to do is then bring the material back to our warehouse and develop and implement and perfect the processes within a junk removal company of keeping material out of the landfill.
Nice.
This then feeds back to Green Up Solutions, where I do consulting. I have the Trash Talk Business podcast. And what we're doing is bring a level of professionalism to all independent owner-operators that are in the junk removal space. The challenge is a lot of people that get into junk removal, they see it like, okay, I'm going to clean out houses, I'm going to take things to the landfill, I'm going to go to the next job. Well, there's not a level of professionalism there because we're not becoming stewards of our craft. We're not perfecting the processes of recycling. We're not looking at sustainability, right, beginning with that end state in mind. So through consulting, through coaching, through podcasting, I'm giving away the answers so other junk removal companies can be more profitable and more sustainable within their business, and then they can stay independent and not, get sucked into the franchise world or sucked into having a job or one of the large waste companies. So that's really my focus all day, every day. And then Young Guns is a business that David Bellman and I built over the last 4 years. We had a third partner who's no longer involved. And that's a business that's all about developing relationships, educating people, and offering access. So with Young Guns, we put on quarterly summits and quarterly after 5 networking events.
Mm.
And really, it's about bringing the business community together. There's no doubt that small businesses are under attack, whether it's from legislation, regulation, or large corporations that are coming after us. We have to band together, and we can't sit back and wait for the chambers or the government or bailouts, right? We have to take to the streets and take the fight every day to continue to maintain our market share and earn more market share and become the stewards of the small business community. And so Young Guns is all about that. Everything that I do comes back to starting with that end state in mind, looking at the challenge and say, what can we do today to move the needle? It's not these ideas. It's not standing on the street corner waving a sign. It is active. We're active in the community, whether it's environmentally sound or business related when it comes to entrepreneurship. It's all about getting out there and being active to build sustainable businesses.
Okay. And, you talk about taking the items that you remove from, businesses or residential and either giving it to charity, like salvaging a lot of it. Are you also connected with companies that actually like repurpose the material?
Yeah, so absolutely. So we have a 5-phase recovery process that I developed years ago, and we've implemented in our business, and I really implemented in all aspects of life. And so what that is to reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle, and responsibly dispose of material. And so when we talk about this, we talk about the stuff we pull out of people's homes and businesses, and then we refer to it as product or material. We don't talk about it and call it trash or garbage or junk or refuge, because when you decrease the value of it when you start talking about it in terms like that. So when we start talking about it, like it has some value left. It makes you see things differently. And then how do we maximize the value of a thing? And it's not about the dollars and cents. How do we get this material, these products in the next best person's hand so that it has additional life? And so some people might say, well, I'm done using this. Well, that doesn't mean the product life cycle is done.
Right.
That means you're done with it for the time. And so we've developed our entire business around that. And then the reduced part is having people come into our warehouse and watching and seeing what we do. We do tours almost on a weekly basis. We bring in and we work with schools to teach them about environmental responsibility. So it really is this very beautiful ecosystem that we have. And then I've taken these same principles in recycling and the overall sustainability business, and we've applied it to life and to business, right? When we interact, right? My goal is simple. It's to breathe life into the people, the places, and the products that I interact with. So we talk about Young Guns. There's a lot of business owners that are down and out. They're struggling. Well, it's an opportunity for us then now to breathe life into these people. When we clear places out and spaces out, we really, we're in the junk removal business. We're really in the recovery business for people. We're recovering the space they once had, the clutter within their own head and the clutter within their own mind. Junk removal is what we do, but the why behind we do it, the way people feel when we're done, that's what's most important. And so, like we took the assessment here before our podcast, right? And in the model, right? Action is number 1, nurturing is number 4, right? I'm an action-oriented person because I know when we get results, it takes care of people, right? And takes care of the environment. So for me, it's all about action because I know the results come in time.
Nice. Yeah. Talk about, when did this whole business, you've clearly become a very strong leader. And that's one of the things I was thinking about as we were preparing for the show. When did you first recognize, go back a ways, wherever you, like my first recollection, like, I think I got some skill here in terms of leadership. I think I can go in that direction and really do something and make that difference.
Really, once I got serious about it, so February we started the company. By May we bought into a franchise organization, and it was really about the third month in. The third month in, we were the number 1 franchise in the country, and up until that point, I had told myself for years, I'd convinced myself for years I wasn't ready to start a business. I didn't have the education, I didn't have the capital, I didn't have the business partner, I didn't have all these things. Right? What I didn't have was the confidence.
Right.
And once I got the ball rolling, I had that epiphany, that aha moment, like, this is simple. It is so simple to run this business. You got to work hard. You got to work smart. You got to put in the time. You got to try new things. You got to get up every day and make it happen. And once I started doing that, the momentum went. And what I realized was during those times in 2009, for example, when I started the business and I started it, it was transactional. It was pick up things on the side of the road so I could eat that day, right? That's really what it came down to. I needed to make $100 a day in order to pay my mortgage and go to the grocery store. So it was very transactional of, okay, let me get through this. And I was coming off a deployment and struggling with PTSD, and there was a lot of other stuff going on. Yeah. Once I got serious, once I started doing it, things opened up. And what I had to realize was ultimately I acted like a victim of my situation, a victim of my circumstance for so long. I was a combat veteran. I was uneducated. I was unemployable, right? I had all these issues. Once I decided to become the victor within my story, everything changed. So it was a complete mindset shift. And that's what I had. When I bought the franchise, I finally said, I'm going to do this, right? I'm not going to listen to what people have said about me, right? We all have an inner child into us, a wounded inner child from something from our childhood. And what I carried with me for years is this idea that I wasn't good enough. And I'd convinced myself for years that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't a good enough father. I wasn't a good enough husband. I wasn't a good enough, employee or potential business owner. Yeah. Once I got through that shit, my world started opening up. It's now my opportunity to say, okay, what do I need to do so that I am good enough? Once I'm there, once I have the skills necessary, how do I show up every day? How do I confidently navigate this world to build the life that I want? When I start doing that, I live the life I want. And every day I have to put work into myself to make that happen because that's how life is, right? Work is my favorite 4-letter word. Work is a beautiful thing. You got to put the work in. And it starts by putting the work in yourself.
Always a work in progress, right?
Sure. How are you helping other veterans? You said, is that with your camo crew? Do you hire specifically veterans?
About half of our staff are vets. That's always been our goal, is to hire more veterans. And the goal is never to have 100% veterans because veterans, military members, we get into groupthink often. And we start to alienate ourselves from the civilian world. So it's best that we have around 50-50, 50% veterans, 50% non-veterans. Smart. And so I've gone out of my way. Our leadership team are all veterans. That's purposeful because we have a military culture to us. My brother, when we worked together for years, was not a veteran. So there was a very good alignment there. He saw things a certain way. I saw things a certain way. So in that regard, it worked really well. And so, the camo crew is one thing. But a lot of the things I do throughout the day and throughout my life are veteran-centric. I'm 18 years in. I'm coming up on 19 years in the military. I'm a career counselor, so I continue to mentor soldiers, young soldiers and old soldiers alike on their careers, both civilian and military. I have another podcast called Welcome Home, the transformation from troops and boots to veterans in the civilian world, where we talk about the transformation that we go through and the challenges and struggles and how to navigate those waters when you're going from one world to another world. And so that's a direct give back. And then even on the Trash Talk Business podcast, I've noticed that a fair amount of veterans come back and get into junk removal. Veterans make up less than 5% of the population. And in my very hillbilly math research I went to a convention last year, a junk removal convention, about 20% of the operators were veterans. 25%. So it showed me that in this business, veterans coming back home, there's a high likelihood that new junk removal companies are going to be started by veterans. So if I give the answers away, I teach people how to better serve their communities through junk removal, it's going to empower them to build a business and ultimately a life that they want.
Yeah. That, I was 4 years Air Force, and I tell you what, one of the reasons I didn't stay in, I'm very forward thinking, and I saw a lot of the older, and I'm very analytic.
Yep.
So I saw a lot of the older guys that were retiring and just talking about stuff. And every once in a while I talk about how the life expectancy of a vet oftentimes is not that, they tend to die younger. So I'm like, you know what? and the conditioning that you get from being in the military. It's a completely different world, right? You're so conditioned to a different way of life. And I didn't want to do a 20-year career and then try to come out of that and go back into civilian life. So I saw forward thinking. I saw that right off the bat. I wanted to talk about some of the, because I was on a call the other day with you on the Idea Collective, Pat Miller's Idea Collective, and you had said, we're talking about, it sounded to me like you weren't real hip on all these tools that are out there, specifically coaching, right? I wanted to ask you, what are some of the tools that you've used? You seem to, in that, the way you were talking on that show, it seems like you've done a 180 on that, and you've embraced the idea of, okay, there's all these things, there's programs out there. What stands out to you the most? And to tell us about how important that is to grow yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I often joke that I'm uncoachable, I'm unmanageable, and I'm unemployable, right? And 2 out of 3 of those is true, right? I am unmanageable and I'm unemployable. Right now that I've run a business, I never want to have a job the rest of my life.
Yeah.
However, again, going back to that good enough, negative self-talk, I can convince myself for years I was uncoachable because I'm one of those. You learn by doing. You learn by experimenting, right? You learn the hard way, right? That's how I grew up, and I never really did well in school, and being told to do stuff, I typically do the opposite. And what it came down to was I realized, well, no, that's not 100% true. When I look back at the lessons I've learned, most of it was through mentorship. Yeah. I had 2 really good mentors when I was in high school. One ran a pizza place. His name was Mark Caldwell. He ran Marco's Pizza in Germantown I worked at for a number of years. And another was Roger Brunig, who owned Falls Amoco, a gas station that I worked at for a number of years. And what I realized was I'm very capable of learning. I'm very capable of being coached. Yeah. The goal is, am I being coached in something I want to be coached in? And is the style in which that fits my personality, right? Which is hands-on and somewhat authoritative, right? If you go soft on me, I'm going to run right over you.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Yeah, so Andy, I wanted to ask you, so I guess tying this in, because I know like your action comes first. You said you're like, you don't really want to spend a lot of time thinking about things a whole lot. You just want to take action and kind of see what results. So how did that correspond with being in the military? Because the military is so regimented, which you said you like the process and the systems and the stability and the predictability. So how did that gel in the beginning? Because I can see correlates now with having your own business.
Yeah, so you used a word that gets me twitchy every time called thinking, right? So that's it, right? So I wrote a book called Words Fucking Matter. Retrain your brain to use language that serves you. And one of the words we eliminate, and I've eliminated from my vernacular, is thinking. Because when you're thinking, when you say I'm thinking, I'm talking, I'm trying, all you're doing is lying. What are you doing? And even when people come up to me, they're like, well, I'm thinking this. Well, no shit, you're thinking it. You're saying it out loud, right? it displays a lack of confidence. And also, when you're thinking it, this is when you're generating new ideas. Often, the solution is right in front of you, right? So to your point on the military, in the military, we don't think. It's a beautiful thing. Right, we're trained to execute, and it's a very much when this happens, this is what we do. When this happens, this is what we do. So we're not reacting to something new; we are responding to a situation we already predicted. Right. So when it comes down in the military, we have a lot. Everything's in an acronym, and everything's a process. So you learn these things, right? And so, for example, when an operation order comes down, it says this is what we're going to do. Right, very very high level. What needs to happen as a non-commissioned officer? The first thing you do is start tentative movement, where it'll come down. Hey, we're going out, we're moving out, we're doing this thing. All right, cool. I know we're leaving the wire. All right, well, what do I need? I need my weapon, I need my body armor, I need this, I need this. Oh, I also have to make sure my soldiers need this. So it's not like you're not starting to, let's think about what do we need to do today. No, you've been trained, you've been conditioned, you've been right. And so now when situations that are predictable in nature come on the horizon, right? Activated events, we call them. Your brain has already implanted, this is what we do. And now we're using our upper, clear, creative, confident brain to respond to the situation versus using our lower lizard brain to react, right? When you react, it's coming out of a place of scarcity. It's coming out of a place of fear, right? That's when it's the fight, flight, or freeze response. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Right now you're getting elevated. No. You know these things are happening because you're an educated person within your business. Michael Jordan has said in the past, right? When you put in the work, there is no fear. He didn't fear anybody when he came on the court because he put in the work. He knew what was going to happen. Now, whether the ball goes in or not, that's a matter of statistics. You're not going to hit every shot. But you know when this happens, this is how we respond. And then you can live this life of confidence, right? You're not egotistical. You're not cocky. You're living a life because you're confident in the work you're going to put in because you've trained. You put yourself, your body physically and mentally prepared for the challenges for today. And so it's not a question of thinking. It's about managing a calendar, right? We can't manage people. I hate managing people. I can manage processes. When I manage processes, I'm at my best.
Yeah, so when you have good processes in place, managing of people becomes less of an issue, would you say?
You lead people. You lead them, you hold them accountability. You say, here, people, here's the standard. I've trained you on the standard. Now that you know the standard, people either make or don't make the standard. So earlier this week, I noticed that one of our guys, he comes in, he punches in, he goes to the locker room, he puts his boots on and kind of gets ready, and he comes back out, right? And I'm like, well, and I stopped him. I said, hey, I don't pay you to get ready for the day. Right. My expectation is you show up ready to work. If you want to use the locker room, you need to show up before you start so that I don't pay you to what we call FADA, fuck around, dick around. Right? No, I'm paying you to work. So this morning, I saw him. He's in his Crocs and his sweatpants. I go, are you on my clock right now? He goes, no, man, I ain't on the clock. I don't punch in until I'm ready to work. I go, good answer. Right? And that was it. Because he wasn't trained on his thought, right? In the other companies he worked for, you walk in, you punch in, then you go get dressed or you go get your cup of coffee. No. We run a military-centric organization. Once you punch in, it's time to work. Let's go to work. And so now it's I set the expectation. Before this employee started working here, the expectation was set. When the new employee came, we trained the expectation. Yeah. Right. In his case, we had to retrain the expectation, and now I hold him accountable. Now it wasn't a conflict between him and I, right? The conflict was, are you following the process that we've established to be the best practice within our organization?
Nice.
Because if employees start taking advantage, start stealing time, right? You hear a lot of owners like, oh, they're stealing from me. They're taking my time. Well, what are you doing to ensure that doesn't happen? Right. And I can go into it, and I've explained, right, the why. Let's begin, right? Simon Sinek talks about beginning with the why. Well, why do we come ready to work? Well, because customer might call and we have to show up early. We don't want to piss away money for people getting ready in the locker room, because when you come in and spend 10, 15 minutes in the locker room and the other guy next to you doesn't, now you're screwing over your battle buddy. Right. Or also, if you're messing around, your bonus is going to be less because there's less profit share at the end of the quarter to give you bonus. Right. Like, I can give you 100 reasons why you show up ready to work, or you get ready here and you punch in afterwards. Right. Right. And that's like explaining to a 2-year-old the why. Explain the why one time and then hold them accountable, and hold yourself accountable, hold everybody accountable. And when you have an organization of accountability, culture goes through the roof, because most people want to get the endorphins kicking off because, oh yeah, I met the standard. People feel good about doing things right.
Yeah. So talk about, I was going to say that when I look back on my life, which I hope is going to be for quite a while yet, but I looked at, or I talk about, people say, well, or I think about, what are the top 5 decisions I have made? Joining the military and being on active duty and going through that whole process is in my top 5 best decisions I've ever made. So I'd like for you to expand on how important it is for having that military experience, and how much it has really helped you now that you're further down the road, got these businesses going. I can only imagine how much it's helped you.
Yeah, number one decision I've ever made in my life, without a doubt. Right, I say it, I talk about it. I'm a career counselor. My job is retention. My job is to keep soldiers in uniform. And I tell people all the time, the number one decision I made in my life is joining the military, and that's not. They don't pay me to say that. And the reason is because it got me out of my own way of thinking, right? It got me out of my small town. It got me out of the mindset of a small town person. It showed me there's other ways to see the world. And you get, when, day one of basic training, you get thrown in a bay, a big open room, nothing but racks,
Right.
bunk beds for generic terms, right? Rack is a bunk bed, right? You get thrown in a room with 50 other dudes from all over the country. Quick, fast, in a hurry, you realize how insignificant your perspective is, right? Yeah. Your perspective represents 2% of the perspective of that room, right? And so now you see things from other people you never considered before. And then you go get deployed. And now you go to a place where it's a new country. Yeah. Everything is different. And you realize, again, how insignificant you are. And that builds a lot of humility into you. And then on top of the processes and the people and the love for one another, all those things, right? Like, when you go overseas, you don't have coworkers, right? Yeah. You got brothers and sisters. And then there's that level of love. Even the way we do things at Camo Crew. I tell my guys all the time I love them. Ken, the president of our company, him and I had a conversation last week that started off pretty combative both ways. He's a crusty old Marine. I'm a, young and chipper soldier still. And, we go at it sometimes. And that's good. That's what people in business need to do. And at the end of the conversation, it was, I love you, brother. I was like, yeah, I love you too, man. Right. And because we have the love, because we have that foundation of respect and love for each other, we can have those conversations that are knock down, drag out. Because
man, I loved you, brother. I loved you today, but I wanted to kick your ass.
Exactly.
A little bit uncomfortable conversations.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, those are the most comfortable conversations I have because I know progress is going to happen. Yeah. Right. Conflict I love conflict, right? Like in the military, we talk about survive first contact, right? We always call about contact. That's the word, right? And contact is when rounds are coming in or something, something's happening, right? And so often in the military, you want to initiate contact, right? You want to be the one to pull the trigger first, right? That's how it is. And so my civilian world equivalent is initiating conflict. If there's something that needs to be sorted out, I'm not going to sit in my office and wait for it to come to me. Yeah. No, right? This is the analogy of you want to be cattle or you want to be bison, right? When a storm approaches, cattle run away from the storm. And what ends up happening? They run and run and run and run. They get tired out. And then what happens? The storm comes over them. And then when they're most tired is when the storm is hitting them. And then they get stuck in the storm because the storm's coming. And now and eventually when they finally get out of the storm, right, they're exhausted and they're tired and they're worn out. And that's what happens in our society all the time. People run away and they're afraid of it. They got anxiety. Oh, the storm's coming. Let's run away from this thing. Well, let me tell you something. The storms are coming and it comes every time, right? And what does the bison do? The bison sees the storm coming and it runs towards the storm. Right. Why? Because if they're going to hit the storm, it's going to be on their time. It's going to be in their place. They're going to meet the storm. And what ends up happening, right? The bison are here. The storm is there. Look, the time within the kill zone is shortened because the bison are the victors within their own story. Right. They're not a victim within their own circumstance. Cattle are victims of circumstance. They got caught in the storm. Well, why did they get caught? Because they ran away. They had a choice. They chose to get caught in the storm. They were victims. Be the bison. Be the victor of your story. The storm's coming. Life. Shit happens. Yep. Are you going to embrace it? Are you going to lean into it? Are you going to chase conflict? Or are you going to run away? Yeah. Those that run towards the storm, towards the fire, those are the ones that make the world go round. Those are the ones that shape the worlds. Those are the ones that make this place worth living.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So,
that's the key.
What is your biggest struggle right now as a business owner? Like, what are you facing?
What am I not facing? Right? Wages are up. We got inflation. We got overregulation. We got politicians that talk on both sides of their mouth and tax the shit out of us. You got a younger generation that was catered to, right? And now, when you hold them accountable, it's the first time they've ever been held accountable in their lives, right? Like that. There's all these issues. We've built a society of weak people, right? It's that old adage, right? Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. We are in that place. We've had it very good in America for a long run. I don't
Right.
know, pretty much since 1990. The 90s were good to us,
Mhm.
right? The early 2000s were pretty good to us, right? We've had a whole generation that was good. The Cold War was over, right? The economic woes of the 80s, right? The 18% interest rates of the 80s. Like the 80s were a rough period. The people that came out of the 80s are hard because it was
Right.
hard, right? And so they're strong. We got a lot of weak people out there in this world because it was good. When things are good, you get fat and lazy. And that's what we have. We have a society of people that are lazy. And they're a
And
product
they
of their
have that-
environment.
They also have that entitlement mentality
Entitlement.
that's annoying all of us.
All of us. And when I say that, I'm part of that generation, right? Right? So I intentionally look for storms and maybe create some every now and then, right? So as an American society that I'm fully part of, we got to get hard. We got to stand up for ourselves, right? We you know, from a globalist perspective, it's like, and I've been to war. War's not a great place. I'll tell you what, we had it pretty simple compared to the people that we fought, right? And so we're soft as a country, and that's not going to serve us. Our best years were when things were the worst, right? When we fought the British, when we fought each other, when we fought in World War II, right? Those are the times that we came out and had the most prosperous times thereafter. There's a reason why there was a revolution in the 60s and 70s, because we had some hard-charging individuals that were raised in the 30s and 40s, right? There's a reason why we've moved the needle, and now we live in a nation of soft individuals, and then that trickles down into business and inflation and people that don't want to work. And or they go get jobs at cushy corporations that don't challenge them.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm all about fighting for small business. I'm fighting for people to get out there and build the dream that they want. But you got to fight for it. You got to put in the work.
Yep.
So how are you challenging yourself on a regular basis?
I wrote a book last year because I said I was going to. I've started businesses that have succeeded and failed. I continue to push our team. I could sit back and not take the time, right? We're taking the time right now to do a podcast. I could not do this, right? I spend 8 to 10 hours a week doing content to share my message with the world. This is not a normal, natural state of being for me. I'm very happy and comfortable sitting behind my computer in my office with the door closed and getting to work. It's comfortable. So I chase things that are uncomfortable. And when you do things that are uncomfortable, then they become comfortable. Then you got to chase the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's life and that's growth and that's learning. And that's all the beautiful things that we as humans are capable of. And we have to chase them. We got to be the bison, chase the storm. That's the key. That's how I continue to push forward. It's a choice. And on the days I don't want to do it, I still will myself to do it. Doing something half-assed is better than doing nothing at all.
Right.
So it's better to do things and fail than not at all. And you got to be good with that. Not comfortable with it. Content that you will fail. Not comfortable because then you just sit back, fat and lazy. No.
Right.
Content that you're going to go out there and you're going to make choices and not every time it's going to work out for you. And that's okay. And that's actually good because that's where learning occurs.
Wow. That sounds like a pretty good wrap up. Is there anything you want to add to that? I love that getting out of your comfort zone. One of our first episodes is all about growth, getting out of your comfort zone, how important that is. Would you like to add a few finishing thoughts as we wind down here?
Here's my battle cry for life. When the alarm goes off and you don't want to get up, when there's something happening over there that you want to avoid, when you get stuck in your own head, it's real simple. We all in our head know what the right thing is, right?
Right.
And so my battle cry, my mantra for life, DTFT, do the fucking thing. You know what it is. Get out there and do it. Live the life that you want. Be the hero within your own story.
Nice.
Nice.
I would add on to that and say, do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all know what right looks like, right? Most of life goes back to the lessons we learned as kids, right? You got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Right.
We all know what right looks like. Stand up for yourself and others. Those are very, very basic things we're taught as children. We don't do as adults. Figure that out.
Right. Dr. Z,
Put
any
things,
parting thoughts?
Put things back where you found them.
Oh my God. Put them back where we found them. Right? Systematic, thorough, repeatable.
And on that note,
No more parting thoughts? Is that it?
No more parting thoughts.
All right, we're going to leave it there.
Oh, okay. Well, I had another question,
Oh.
but I don't know if we're running out.
All right.
How has having your own business changed you? I think you kind of summed that
freedom.
up.
Freedom. The assessment the assessment that I took, right?
Yeah.
There was the 4 boxes, right? I'm a simple person. I read the first word in all 4 boxes. It's like 10 words. I read the first one, right? First word I saw that caught my eye, freedom.
Freedom.
Nice.
Freedom. Nice. Freedom from your own head, too.
Figure out what you want, people, and go get it.
Go get it.
Yes.
Take action.
Absolutely. There you go.
And
on that note,
thank you in advance.
Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. We're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. We're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing